Hello everyone, today I will be examining Insight I Am, Michael Hartnett. Before I go into examining George Hooker's film, I would like to recite the poem which served as its inspiration by his mother Eleanor. And just because the stand of oaks was blind, she gave them eyes, iridescent glowstones from fathomless seas, and once inclined to hold the sky with seasoned hands grown out of touch, they cupped the light, dappled it for shadows and for shade. Now in sight of things they know the shape of, they grapple with her lonely walks on moonless nights, they whisper to each other, even the sky is alone tonight. She presses her eyes into their eyes, and inside their world she finds you there, naked surgeon, a light by your well, your body unfurled as the stars flow through you to trace your hopeful song, so music is heard in space. Insight was shot on a single cartridge of Super 8 film, in-camera edits only, and no post-production. Our main subject or character for our film is unnamed. She is played by George Hooker's then-girlfriend, Martina Babasova. Switching focus back to Eleanor Hooker's poem, a question I asked, as I'm sure others have, who is Michael Hartnett? A poet in both the English and Irish language, Michael grew up in poverty. His poetry reflects the struggle between the two languages. Michael sadly passed away at age 58, but he leaves a great legacy of poetic works behind. Our title film debuted in 2018, and poet Eleanor Hooker would go on to win the Michael Hartnett Annual Poetry Award for her works in 2022. An excerpt from the Irish Times provides Hooker's reflection on Michael, which I believe adds context to her poem and George Hooker's film as well. Quoting Eleanor directly, she went on to say, Michael Hartnett faced down his fears and made them poems of exquisite lyrical elegance. He wrote with courage of his most dark and raw moments, without artifice or pretense. The desire for such authenticity and truthfulness has inspired much of my own writing. Michael Hartnett died too young, but to continue to read his poems is to remember the eras do not end when great poets die, for poetry is not whole. Eleanor Hooker's poem reflects on reclaiming something that has been lost and the discovery of finding it again. Michael Hartnett was a poet known for his extensive work in the Irish language. Hooker, I believe, while writing in English, conveys the honest feeling of recapturing this essence of Irish culture and identity. As I will explore in George Hooker's short film, the use of film techniques visually creates a story not dissimilar to the stories heard in Irish folklore. For our very first shot, we have the title card Insight. Ink on paper, dappled with the light coming through the trees. We see the source of this light in the shot that directly follows, camera pointed upward, rotating slowly, capturing the treetops. The camera can be the representative of the human eye, and George Hooker works with light and reflection to create an ethereal space on and off screen. His use of water and mirrors is also indicative of self-reflection. One way we can create poetic cinema is by inhabiting the consciousness of our subject and using their language. This is called free and direct discourse. Hooker accomplishes that through different reflective shots, coupled with the poem's narration. George Hooker's use of space in this short film captures the feelings of the story being told in a larger world. His ability to capture such a variety of movement so simply gives the film a great sense of depth, or as Eleanor Hooker posits, a fathomless sea. In shot 3 we have height. No ground is shown, giving an unreal feeling, like a fairy queen sitting in her throne of branches above us all. Shots 4 and 6 we have the coming and going. What world does she come from? Where is she returning to? These shots are recreated in shots 14 and 15 respectively, but this time with the use of a mirror. By using this mirror, I believe George Hooker is trying to represent her entrance into this other world, a lost world. These shots are paired with Eleanor Hooker's poem, Now in sight of things they know the shape of, they grapple with her lonely walks on moonless nights, they whisper to each other, even the sky is alone tonight. Our lone heroine is on a path of rediscovery, and we, the viewer, are invited to watch the journey. George Hooker captures movement and the path of rediscovery, and he also captures the lonely, isolating feeling of it. I feel this is resolved by our final shot, where we see our actress flying above the water, face up before the camera, which then slowly pans up to the setting sun in the sky above. linking back to our first shot post-title card of the tree, branches, and sky. Creating a free, indirect discourse and using film space are all skills and techniques in creating poetic cinema. Another important tool is sound. A viewer's desire to hear sound accompanied with film is known as the invocatory drive. George Hooker has to navigate this because his choice of a Super 8 film camera means the sound is non-diegetic. Hooker utilizes bird calls, piano music, and soft tones reminiscent of choral singing to create atmosphere for his short film. He uses all this prior to the introduction of our narration of Eleanor Hooker's poem. This dialogue is asynchronous to our film because we never see the actress moving her mouth in a way that would infer speaking, but as a viewer, we can assume this is her dialogue, or conversely, view it to be a voice of God narration. When dialogue is asynchronous in a film like this, the subject in the film becomes the subject or body of the film, and more focus and meaning can be attributed to what our actress's character represents. The voiceover aspect also adds to the space of the film and implies that it is limitless. Finally, in terms of George Hooker's film as a standalone creation of poetic cinema or media poetry, we the viewer must ask, has the filmmaker been successful in communicating to us, the receiver, the objective they are trying to achieve? For me personally, I believe the answer to be yes. I feel having done this exploration that I do now have what is referred to as a shared responsibility in the process of viewing this film. The more I have analyzed it since first viewing, the more it has transformed in front of me in terms of the meaning I believe George Hooker and Eleanor Hooker have meant to communicate. While the former and latter may not be communicating the same message as is typical of no two minds being alike, their messages blend into a coherent, beautiful piece of text, voice, and imagery. Earlier in the year, I viewed Karsten Krause's short film You and Me. This film and George Hooker's insight share many connections. The use of Super 8 film, non-diegetic sound, and voiceover narration of poetry are all shared traits. Both films were made by sons in tribute to a parent, and lastly, what I found to be most uncanny, although not completely similar, is the camera's appearance as a character. In the case of Krause's film, the choice is deliberate on part of the filmmaker, who is compiling a film from hours of home video footage captured by his father. The camera reveal is significant to the story Krause is trying to create, a man who loves his wife. In the case of Hooker, his film was created on one cartridge of Super 8 film. The reveal of the camera comes as a transition from a standing mirror reflecting the forest background is obscured by a falling sheet of water. We see the camera appear, push in, and then quickly disappear, revealing the mirror surface we can assume now to be lying on the ground, water still pouring over it, with the image of the trees above captured in its reflection. It is possible the camera appears because Hooker was managing a difficult transition. However, there does seem to be the smallest of cuts to account for the camera's sudden disappearance. I believe the camera's appearance is deliberate. Hooker set the rule for himself of no post-production. All edits are done in camera. But he also planned his film second by second. A shot comes at the end of our poem, leading me to believe if we can assume the camera represents the human eye, Hooker's choice to reveal the camera possibly represents an invitation to the viewer to see their own self in the film Hooker's creating, and take with them the hopeful song Eleanor Hooker refers to. Personally, I believe Eleanor Hooker's poem I Am Michael Hartnett to be a tribute to the late poet. I believe I am may literally stand for in memoriam and also have the parallel meaning of I am. Eleanor is clearly influenced by him, and her tribute is also a call to carry on the spirit of Hartnett's work in present and future Irish poets. George Hooker's titled film Insight, I believe, is a son's answer to a mother. Yes, I hear you, and I want to carry your message forward as well. Something I believe both mother and son have successfully achieved. Hello again. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. Slán le.